Alright, good Sunday morning for those in the Hong Kong region, Guangdong province, Guangxi province. We will be discussing what is now Typhoon Wipha. But as of right now, I'm just going to share the stream. If you're watching this stream after it goes live, and you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments of this video, and I will answer them in the next update, if there is one. Once again, I'm just currently sharing the stream to anyone who is interested. And then we'll get onto discussing the storm. Alright, so how is everyone doing in the chat today? Wipha, yeah. Alright, so let's get right into it. So, taking a look at the latest graphic of the threat level the system poses over the next 5 days, we can see that there is a broad area of marginal impacts. Again, mainly in the form of rain. Could see a couple of inches of rain in this region, or around 150 to 100 millimeters of rain potentially, generally in this shaded region. And you can see that it's mainly Guangdong province, Guangxi province, and then in towards Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar, and then even parts of Thailand. Once again, these are mainly just wind impacts, or excuse me, rain impacts over the next 5 days, just because this disturbance is quite large, and but it's going to get more compact as it moves through southeastern Asia. Now, if we take a look at some of these slight impacts, as we can see, Guangdong province is in part of it, but this is mainly for a wind threat in combination with that rain threat. And then going forward, we can see in Guangxi province and then in towards Vietnam and northern Laos. They are also in that slight risk area. And then also parts of Myanmar and far western Thailand are in it as well, again in the form of rain. And again, those who are watching the stream, if you have any questions, you can leave them down there and I will answer them later in the stream. Now, if we take a look at the moderate impacts, these are once again mainly for wind near Hong Kong in Guangdong province. Just because it's a typhoon right now, there may be typhoon force winds in those areas. And then we can see another section going on into northern Vietnam and parts of far northern Laos. That's the farther inland you go, that's more of a rain threat. The closer to the coast, that's more of a wind and rain threat. So that's why there's that region that goes pretty far inland. And then we have another section for two parts of Myanmar. Again, mainly for rainfall. Could see a decent amount of rain, over 200 millimeters of rain at least. Maybe even upwards of 500 millimeters in some spots. And then if we take a look at the possibility of major impacts, there's a corridor across Vietnam and parts of Laos here that could see potentially major impacts. Upwards of over 500 millimeters of rain are possible in this region if everything goes right with the system. That's the reasonable worst case scenario. Now, if we take a look at the track forecast here, we have it as a typhoon right now. The system should weaken slightly as it passes through Guangdong province, and then when it re-enters water and in the Gulf of Tonkin, it could strengthen once again and potentially become a typhoon again. This is something that we have seen sometimes with these tropical cyclones that like to sneak into here and then re-intensify again, so it's not out of the question that we could see another typhoon landfall somewhere in Vietnam. Then the system will quickly weaken and then should remain a tropical cyclone over the next 3 days, before then becoming a remnant low and then moving across Myanmar and then potentially into the Bay of Bengal within the next 5 days, where it could see some potential redevelopment. Alright, so that's a look at the broad impacts over the next 5 days. Now, if we take a quick break and look at the global tropics right now, we of course have Typhoon Wipha, which is what is making us in code pink right now, nearly code purple, so it's nearly maxing out the scale. But if we look over towards the west, we have a North Indian Ocean remnant low and a Southwest Indian Ocean remnant low. Both of these are likely to dissipate over the coming days. And then if we take a look at the North Atlantic, we have two disturbances here. We have one with a 10% chance over the next 2 days or so, and we have another one with a 10% chance over the next 7 days, something that's the Gulf Coast will have to watch out for again. In the Eastern Pacific, we have a disturbance with a 30% chance over the next 2 days, and a disturbance with a 10% chance over the next 7 days. And then looking elsewhere in the Western Pacific, we have a disturbance with a 50% chance over the next week, with a 10% over the next 48 hours near the Taiwan area, just north of the Philippine Sea. And we have a disturbance with a 30% chance of development in the Northern Mariana Islands. And we will cover that later in this update. Now, taking a look at satellite imagery of the storm, we can see that its circulation, it is quite sheared off coming from the north. Most of the thunderstorms are off to the south side, which, that is quite good news that the rain is trying to stay offshore. Also looking at some sort of mid-level circulation here, that's quite interesting. But overall, the system is just nearing the coast of Hong Kong, and it should make landfall over the next few hours, before then moving inland over Guangdong province, and then continuing moving westwards. But yes, overall a pretty healthy system. If we take a look at the infrared imagery, we can see a new burst off towards the south here, just continuing that sustainment, likely of typhoon force winds. And here, if we take a look at radar imagery, we can see the system's eye and where it's located at now, just south of Hong Kong here. We can see the bands of rain are already impacting Hong Kong. If we go over here in this more high-resolution zoom, we can see how close the system is to Hong Kong, just to the southwest by roughly around 100 or so kilometers, I believe. Under that, around only 50 kilometers away from Hong Kong. And it could make a landfall anywhere along this coast over here, because it's not really going to make a wobble to the south just yet. So really, anywhere in this zone kind of could receive a landfall. But as we can see, it has a band of rain off to the west of it that's continuing to propagate westwards, and we have this band of heavier rainfall rates as a thunderstorm just to the south of the center. Thankfully, this is just offshore and not over land just yet. Here's a little bit of another look at that radar loop. Alright, now if we go to the shear that the system is facing right now, and instead of this, I am going to show this map right here. Again, I was talking about that shear. It is lighter shear up farther north, but as we can see here, there is, I'm going to change this color to something more vibrant. We can see, though, that there is somewhat hostile shear to the south, which is trying to keep the storm more southerly oriented. The shear will get a little bit stronger as it enters the Gulf of Tonkin, but it should relax a bit as it nears the coast of Vietnam. Oh, and taking a look at sea surface temperatures, I'm going to turn this off. Taking a look at sea surface temperatures, they are expected to continue to be quite warm, currently around 30 degrees Celsius, but they could warm up to 30 to 31 degrees Celsius in the Gulf of Tonkin, so more than enough to fuel it. If we take a look at the oceanic heat content, though, there's really not a lot here. But again, this is mainly for something if it was stalling. Since the system's not really expected to stall, that's not really going to be a problem for it. Alright. Then if we take a look at the distance from some areas, I will show this again. Here's a look at the radar imagery. This is around 30 minutes ago. The system was located roughly 50 kilometers away from Hong Kong, roughly 80 kilometers away from Macau, and then moving more westwards towards Hainan Island around 400 kilometers, 450 from Haikui, and then we have around 600 kilometers away from Vietnam, roughly 900 to 1,000 kilometers away from Laos, 1,400 kilometers away from Thailand, around the same for Myanmar, and then roughly 2,200 kilometers away from Bangladesh, where it could also impact those areas over the next week. Now, if we take a look at the shear forecast over the next few days, we can see that shear is expected to increase. But in the Gulf of Tonkin, where it reemerges there, it could see a little bit of a break where it could become a typhoon once again, as I mentioned previously. Just something to watch out for. And taking a look at the model runs, this is the latest European run, showing the landfall just near Hong Kong, moving inland, then re-intensifying into a typhoon in the Gulf of Tonkin before moving inland as a storm, then a depression, then a remnant low. And then, as you can see here, it also has the other systems developing. Very broad circulation, though, not really a tropical cyclone here near Taiwan, but then it does show a tropical cyclone near the Northern Mariana Islands. The latest American run here shows the system also becoming a typhoon again in the Gulf of Tonkin, weakening, then combining with a disturbance in the Bay of Bengal, and also shows those two disturbances with the Northern Mariana Islands one becoming a typhoon or even a major typhoon over the next week. Just something to watch out for. Now, the latest German run also shows the system becoming a typhoon, nearly a Category 2, almost Category 3 typhoon in the Gulf of Tonkin, so we could see even further strengthening there. And then it will combine with the disturbance in the Bay of Bengal. And then we can see the system has the broad circulation developing near Taiwan. If we go to the earlier but longer run, it does show another disturbance forming in the South China Sea. Just a possibility. I don't really think it's likely, though. If we take a look at the latest Canadian run, it doesn't show that possibility of developing or re-strengthening again in the Gulf of Tonkin, since it has it too far north. But overall, it shows a broad disturbance developing near Taiwan. Potentially, flooding would be a concern for Japan, and then has that system by the Northern Mariana Islands becoming a typhoon. If we take a look at the European ensembles of this disturbance, or of this typhoon, excuse me. Again, the system will most likely move into the Gulf of Tonkin. All the ensembles are really showing that, and then moves inland and then moves towards India and Bangladesh. And it also shows those other two disturbances with an increased amount of support for the Northern Mariana Islands disturbance will likely increase chances over the next day or so. Looking at the now looking at the American ensembles of this typhoon. Most of them, again, show it emerging into the Gulf of Tonkin, and then some of them have it recurving out just depending on how strong this disturbance eventually gets. And it also shows that other disturbance near the Northern Mariana Islands. Again, here's a look at the Euro ensembles, just pretty consistent, and then shows those other two disturbances. And then same thing with the American ensembles right here. Now, if we take a look at the European AI model and look at the most recent run, and we can see the storm moving across Vietnam, then Laos, then eventually Myanmar, and then combines with this other disturbance to potentially become another tropical cyclone. They'll move over India, then weaken. I mean, the pattern seems quite favorable over the next week or so, that we could see land depressions or storms form over India. Now, if we take a look at the rainfall totals over the next 5 days, this is going to be the European run. There are going to be the potential for heavy rainfall in the Philippines. I'm not going to ignore that. There can be upwards of 250 millimeters of rain in Metro Manila. Just something to watch out for, and mainly all depends on this disturbance near Taiwan. Anyways, looking at Hong Kong, the remaining rainfall totals are only really around 60 millimeters. But if we look into the Gulf of Tonkin, there could be rainfall totals well over 500 millimeters of rain. And then in Hainan Island, including Haikui, rainfall totals of around 100 to 300 millimeters. Vietnam should get widespread totals of 200 to 400 millimeters of rain. Northern Laos could get 300 to 400 millimeters. Thailand could receive upwards of 400 millimeters, and parts of Myanmar, again, could see over 500 millimeters of rain. Now, if we take a look at the American run, again, showing a lot of rain in the Western Pacific, mainly depending on those disturbances, but as we can see, it shows the general similar consensus here with rainfall totals higher in this portion of Vietnam, Laos, and then Thailand, and southern Myanmar. German run pretty much shows the same thing, but we could see a lot of rain here in the Gulf of Tonkin, nearly 1,000 millimeters of rain. So that's quite a lot. And that's over the next 5 days. But areas along the coast could see, fortunately, lower amounts only rain. This is still high, 400 to 500 millimeters of rain. And then looking at parts of Hong Kong, again, only around 100 millimeters of additional rainfall. And then showing generally lower totals across southeastern Asia. Curious if these models show anything for this region. Geez, okay. It's an interesting model showing 700 millimeters of rain down there. But I mean, it is showing quite accurate totals for parts of Myanmar. And then no, okay, that's it for that region. Alright, now, again, that's pretty much it for the system. That was the latest cone there. Now, if we go back to the disturbance on radar, I like using this feature right here to show both. Okay, and then if we take a look at the questions here, and again, if you have any questions, just leave them in the chat and I will gladly answer them. Alright, Mackenzie says, got rained and wind yesterday. Yep, Philippines likely got some heavy rainfall there. And Darian says, so yeah, if the forecast models are accurate, I will be directly inside the eye. Where are you located? Typhoon Lover Silo says, the storm is going to die in the Bay of Bengal. It could reemerge in the Bay of Bengal. This is going to be a pretty complicated setup. It might not be as well organized as Yagi was when it moved into the Bay of Bengal, but it's likely going to be just a remnant low, like a remnant circulation, and then we'll combine with another disturbance that's starting to move northwards. Again, the cone doesn't really show it because it's out of the 5-day window, but an area of interest has not been marked there just because it's somewhat of a similar setup, if that makes sense. It's kind of the same storm. And Darian says, I'm in the major impact polygon, yeah. Now remember, this isn't exactly guaranteed major impacts. These are the possibility of major impacts. If we were more certain, it'd be a like more darker color or more heavily shaded color is what I mean, and not a dashed line. It's mainly that if it becomes a stronger storm and we get those heavier rainfall rates, then yeah, there could be major impacts there. Alright, Zenith says, hello HEC, it's Maddox now, my name is Zenith. It's been a long time since Typhoon Mani, Pepito, yeah. It's been a while, and thankfully there hasn't been a whole lot of systems impacting the Philippines. Wow, okay. 500 kilometers away from the storm, got extreme winds. That's impressive. And Darian says, is living far inland, like 50 miles away from the coast. How strong the wind will be? I can't say for sure about winds. 50 miles inland, maybe tropical storm force. Not really. Maybe some typhoon gust. Let's see. How fast will the typhoon go when it reaches the Gulf of Tonkin? Well, if we take a look at the latest Joint Typhoon Warning Center forecast of the system, when it reaches the Gulf of Tonkin here, let's see, this would be roughly 12 hours. Then if we extrapolate this here, if it's 1800, I have to do some math here. 1800 divided by, or 180, roughly around 15 kilometers an hour when it's in the Gulf of Tonkin. So the system will slow down a bit. Or no, it should remain around the same speed, actually. Alright, Little says, there's less hurricanes. Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot going on in the Atlantic, thankfully. And yes, I can see chat. I like to cover the stuff in the beginning, so that way if people are missing the stream, they can see an update like that. I just go over everything and then I just read your questions. Gina says maybe Euro will be more accurate than those other weather models. It appears to be more accurate. It had the system nearing Hong Kong. It had it more north than the other forecast models, and then eventually shifted more south, just staying on this general path. Mackenzie asks if Wipha makes it to the North Indian Ocean, possible it could re-intensify. Well, if we take a look at the Euro AI model on this system, we can see that here's the system right over, here's Wipha on the 22nd evening, afternoonish. And then the system will continue moving westwards, at least its upper circulation, and it's going to create some spin combining with another disturbance here. This disturbance right here. And then this will eventually move inland. It's a similar setup to Yagi. And then it will move inland. The circulation may be too broad for it to develop, but overall, though, there is the possibility it becomes a tropical cyclone once again. European run not really showing anything too consolidated. Canadian model showing something more consolidated there. And then the German run. The German run has it as a tropical cyclone again there, but it's mainly a new tropical cyclone, not the one from before. But it is overall a combination of the two, I'd say. It's difficult to tell in these setups. Yagi didn't seem like he was going to do that. Alright, XL Digital Gamer says, Gulf of Tonkin is very warm right now. The storm can probably have a chance to rapidly intensify if it's about to hit Vietnam. Yes, if the system is organized enough and if it has its eye wall intact, the system would have to make a more southerly turn. It is going to have to go over land. It can't really avoid land at all. It's going to have to go over the peninsula of Guangdong here. But if it does still have that core, it could rapidly intensify, and we honestly can't rule out a major typhoon. So when you ask, will Wipha went into at 90 miles an hour in the Gulf, it is possible. It could even reach 115 miles an hour if it actually has that core still intact, and if it really, if it's in a more favorable environment for shear, like less shear. Kenji says 10% systems in the Atlantic, the same one as 93L. Yes, that disturbance in the, there's a new, oh wait a minute, that's the same one, sorry. The disturbance that's near the Gulf Coast there with a 10% chance in the parts of the Gulf Stream as well. That system is going to be somewhat the remnant moisture of 93L that will move back over water due to a high pressure there. And then it's going to steer it into the Gulf again, where we could see some redevelopment there. In fact, if we take a look at the latest Euro AI run of that disturbance, and we pull up the vorticity here. Okay, so I'll explain the pattern here. If we take a look at what it's like right now, we have some of the remnants of 93L moving across Tennessee and North Carolina, and we have this ridge right here, which is just mainly moving all the disturbances like this. Okay, so that's why this disturbance has been moving like that, because the high has been moving towards the west. Now, if we go forward roughly 24 hours from now, the disturbance is likely located by the Carolinas at this point. We can see somewhat of a trough down here, just area of lower pressure. The ridge is over here, and there's a little bit of a break right here, as you can see. Anyways, the disturbance is being steered back into the Gulf Stream. If we go forward another 24 hours, the disturbance is pretty much in the Gulf Stream at this point. The ridge is over here, and it's weakening. Again, it's steering it further south towards Florida. We go forward another 24 hours. There's a broad cluster of vorticity there in the Gulf Stream, and the ridge is right here. It's slightly weaker winds now that are pushing it to the south. It's going to be in between these two disturbances. Anyways, though, it will cross the state of Florida, following the high pressure that then moves. It's basically the yin and yang here, where they just replace one another. But then it will move into the Gulf here, and then it could become a tropical cyclone when it moves, if it's able to move all the way towards Louisiana and Texas. So yes, we could see another tropical cyclone here. This is over the next week or so. All right, then if we take a look at that disturbance in the main development region, it's downtrended quite a bit, so we're only giving around a 10% chance of development. But there could be another wave that tries to develop over the next week or so. But again, no, the pattern doesn't seem that great for systems. I mean, we have been watching out for that disturbance for quite some time now, the one over the next week or so. Mainly just the tropical wave, though. Doesn't seem like a whole lot's going to happen. Alright, next question. Let's see, Zenith says another extreme rainstorm approaching just west of the Batangas, south of Manila. Okay, if we take a look at that. Alright, I don't know which area you're talking about. I'm assuming that it's going to be over here. Like this stuff. And I'm guessing that's moving westwards. No, it's moving more east. Okay. But yeah, scattered showers are likely going to happen over the next few days. Maybe some heavy downpours, some thunderstorms. Oh, I see this thunderstorm. This may be what you're talking about. All right, then next question. Mackenzie asked, how long Manila does get rain over the next 5 days? Well, it all depends on this disturbance, honestly, that will potentially form over the next few days. I'm trying to back this up so that the radar frame is there. There we go. Yep. Okay. So pretty much if a disturbance decides to try to develop here, the winds are going to be pushing from the southwest onto the Philippines. There would be a broad circulation here, and then that would force the winds to be moving this direction towards the Philippines, including parts of Manila. And so in this case, the moisture would be moving from the South China Sea over the Philippines for multiple days. So if we take a look at the forecast now for Manila, roughly around 250 millimeters, so around 50 millimeters per day on average. The American run showing around 200 millimeters in total, and the German run showing only around 120 millimeters over the next 5 days. So there's a decent disturbance over here, or a decent line of thunderstorms over here. I'm curious if we can see that on radar. It's just out of range. Mackenzie says it's very unlikely Wipha will rapidly intensify to major typhoon due to high wind shear. Yes, but it is a possibility, and I don't want to rule that out. Excel Digital Gamer, or hold on, sorry. First message was from Mackenzie. What happened southwest Indian Ocean next 7 days after Tropical Storm O1S? If we take a look at the pattern over the next week or so, and I'll go even longer there. And let me use the, yeah, that is the Euro AI model. So here's the remnants of that storm. Moves westwards. So weird here, this little cutoff at the equator. That's cool. Anyways, not seeing a whole lot actually, though there could be another area of low pressure that forms in the early part of August. Just a possibility. I don't know if the runs are consistent. And they kind of are. There could be another system in the beginning of August. Maybe just something to watch out for. Really just over the open ocean there. Alright, XL Digital Gamer says we got about 2 more systems in the Philippine Sea. Yep, that one disturbance, however, should go northwards, the one by the Northern Mariana Islands. Look at that, showing it as pretty much a typhoon or a strong tropical storm. And then that other one just being a broad circulation. Speaking of which, that's what I was talking about with the winds blowing towards Manila. So all that moisture just funnels right in there. But the Northern Mariana Islands may have to watch out for that disturbance, and maybe even Japan in the longer range. If we take a look farther out with the Euro ensembles, showing some of them showing potential impacts to Japan. Just it's too far out to say for sure. Really, just something to watch. Can't really discount it. Can't really say it's going to happen. Zine says, yeah, I don't know, but those storms have very high winds and damaging winds. Storms was passing fast and produced 80-kilometer-an-hour winds. Wow. Mackenzie asks, next system in the Philippine Sea we be maybe tip. I don't think so. I don't. It's going to be large, but it's not going to be. I mean, this system was large, honestly. Um, this system's going to be broader though, so maybe even more impacts in terms of rain, but it's not going to be as consolidated, really. Mackenzie asks, why Manila have tropical storm winds even though Wipha is in the South China Sea? Well, the storm is just so broad, I guess. I'm not. I don't think that's why it's happening. Yes, it is. Okay. Yeah, pretty much the storm is just so broad here. We can see the broad circulation that it's ultimately impacting parts of Manila there. I can actually pull. Oh yeah, I forgot that I can do scatterometer passes. I'm curious what the latest pass shows. Just showing like wind. Okay, this was the latest pass, and this was roughly around 3 hours ago or so. The tropical storm force winds, as of this point when the center was located just southeast of Hong Kong, these are the general radius of tropical storm force winds, and there's some bands here that will have some areas of tropical storm force winds or gust. Manila only getting around winds of 20 to 25 knots, maybe gusts of upwards of tropical storm force. We take a look actually at the scatterometer pass and we go to the Philippines. Okay, well, it hasn't loaded yet. So, okay. It loaded on this one, but not on this one. Alright. But yeah, if we see across the South China Sea, pretty gusty winds there. Something I would like to check out, though, meantime. Oh, and some areas are now starting to be in the eye of tropical or of Typhoon Wipha. I'm curious here. I want to take a look at the extreme forecast here. Okay, so apparently the rainfall isn't too extreme. Or wait, sorry, no, that's temperature. My bad. Rainfall, yes, there it is. Okay, this is more like it. So around 90%. This is mainly just showing how extreme the rainfall rates are compared to average. Again, this is mainly today. Those yellow colors show less amounts of rainfall compared to normal, and again the blue showing higher amounts. So this is the 19th. Here's the 20th. See, it's moving further inland there, and then the 21st, again moving inland, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and then 25th there. If we take a look at the wind here, we can see it is going to be higher than the normal, as well for parts of Manila. It's just pretty windy in the South China Sea. And then on the 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, you can see this right here, this windiness from this little disturbance right here. And then 24th, 25th, even though that the disturbance is likely going to be well away from the Philippines, it is going to be quite windy. And we can see right here, this disturbance right here, it's going to be quite windy in the Bay of Bengal as well, from the remnants of this system. If we take a look at the temperatures though, temperatures will be slightly cooler than average just because of the storms moving through. Not a whole lot to mention about that. Yep, because of the southwest monsoon winds, plus the broad of the new developing system. Yep. Mackenzie says last one in the Eastern Pacific have system if have likely become a hurricane. I don't know what that means, right? Excel Digital Gamer says my prediction for Wipha in Tonkin will getting peak of 90 to 100 mile an hour winds. What about yours? Well, my latest forecast here called for it to be a typhoon. I didn't really make it any forecast for winds, probably around 75 to 80 miles an hour, just because it's quite uncertain. If it goes more north, it might not even become a typhoon. It's not really a general consensus that it will become a typhoon there, so... Well, no, now the forecast is up to 70 miles an hour, so maybe 80, 85, 90. I didn't expect the others here to start upping their forecast. And then Mackenzie asks, has it made landfall? Well, if we look at it, the center of the system right here is not touching land, so it's not a landfall. Even though that some areas are in the eye, it doesn't count as a landfall until the center point moves over land, which it will likely do over the next few hours. I'm quite curious though why viewership has been quite low on this system. Guess it's because it's not. I'm curious because like there were Philippine impacts on it. It's so confusing the algorithm here, and why some of the streams do so well, and then some of them, these past ones haven't been doing great recently. Kenzie says, why North Indian Ocean have any names yet? Well, it's because of the. It's not really that there hasn't been any storms. It's just that the. It's just that the Department of Meteorology there hasn't named anything. So it's really just subjectiveness. It was pretty inactive for May, their first peak, and then here's their little bit of lull in activity, and then it should increase again in October and November. Right. This is such a cool thing though, seeing like top fans or whatever. Zenith is number one, Mackenzie's number two, and then number three is Ann Darian. Shows number four, XL Express Gamer. All tied actually for first. I don't know how this works. You just send messages and you get more XP, I guess. And then tied for second would be Typhoon Lover, and then this person here, which I have not seen send or no, they did send messages. And then the Explosion Guy, Dark Steve, and Wolf. Alright. The system has looked slightly better organized here. We can see that eastern side starting to build back here, and the southern side is also getting more thunderstorms over it. So if we take a look at the latest satellite imagery, using the mesosector here, the higher resolution, we can see those new thunderstorms bursting off to the southern side of it. Thankfully, that's staying offshore for now. Zenith asks, so the rains from Manila in southern part from July 20th through 24th should be rainy, question mark. If we take a look at that, this is just the European run I'm going to show for right now. Here's a look at today, and keep in mind, how to explain this? Just add another 12 hours to the time here. So like this would be the 20th at noon. Here showing a lot of thunderstorms here for parts of Manila. And then if we go towards Monday midnight, still going on. Monday noon, still going on. Tuesday noon, lightening up. Or Tuesday midnight, sorry. Then Tuesday noon. Then Wednesday midnight, still going on. Wednesday noon. Almost the worst there. Then by Thursday midnight, Thursday noon is even worse there. And then looking at around Friday midnight, same thing. And then still by around, this would be Friday noon. So I mean, this will continue on for quite some time. Here's a look at the forecast and the timing of it. Again, this is the European run. Yep, so you can see towards the middle to end part of the week, showing more thunderstorms. Now, what are your predictions about the Western Pacific 2020? I don't know. I don't know about predictions. I am trying to work on the hypothetical typhoon season. It hasn't come out, like I haven't been working on it recently because of the storm. Anyways, though, since that's really all the questions, I am going to end it here. There isn't a lot of viewership, really. But yes, thank you all so much for watching. Again, just a summary here, marginal impacts for most of Southeastern Asia, with a corridor of potentially major impacts in parts of Vietnam and Laos. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll try to make an update maybe tomorrow about the storm as well when it goes into the Gulf of Tonkin, if it's still this big of a deal. Anyways, I'll see you in the next update. Stay safe.